All right. Hey everyone, it's David here, co-founder of Nico, and I'm here with an interview with Audrey Chen. And she may be one of the most successful and impressive college students that I've ever met in the Web3 industry. And we'll get to talk a little bit about why that is here in a sec. But before we do, we'll start out with a quick intro.
Yeah, hi, I'm Audrey Chen, and I'm a student builder.
Awesome. So Audrey, we got a little treat for you, Nico shirt. So here you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Audrey, where are you currently in school at?
I'm currently at Michigan State University.
Okay. And as far as building in the Web3 space, it's been a tough couple of years. And I know a lot of the students that I've interfaced with, some of them have lost interest in the crypto space over kind of the bear market that we have. So it's super impressive to see that you've been hard charging and really just doing some really incredible stuff. But I'd love to know just your perspective as a student, what the sentiment is and what it's been like building over these more trying times.
So, with these more trying times, I'd say a good way to get more involved or build confidence is by putting yourself in environments where it kind of breaks that barrier of entry. For example, hackathon competitions. Rather than like getting over the hurdle of building projects yourself, you can get into an isolated environment for building and be surrounded with a bunch of talented minds, talented mentors. And that really helps propel you in learning skills and building projects.
Awesome. So we did the Redacted Hackathon, and it was pretty intense. Me and my co-founder, like 5 weeks of just like every day. You're doing that. You've done many hackathons. How can you balance that between everything else that you have going on? Is that pretty challenging? Are you able to crank out some pretty cool builds without too much extra time?
Yeah. That's a good question. As a student, like, I had this big hackathon phase where I went to 30 hackathons, won 21 of them.
It's a good win rate.
Yeah.
Could be the best win rate I've ever heard of.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, but balancing schoolwork versus like balancing both AI and crypto projects was a big struggle, actually. But that struggle was lessened because of community.
Right.
Community is like one of the top things that propels me to succeed and get that, not only get that win rate, but enjoy the experience at hackathons and enjoy building with crypto. Actually, one story is I went to a Canadian hackathon, Hacks, and that was where I first interacted with NEAR.
Okay.
We ended up deploying our entire app on the mainnet and winning first place for $3,000. So it was really like my teammates and just the support that NEAR provided to our team that was able to make me feel better about going back to school and continuing to go to hackathons. Like being able to get that win helped me in knowing that, hey, it's okay to go to hackathons, it's okay to do more extracurriculars while also doing school.
Absolutely. And in terms of the community building, you've made a lot of progress there, of course, just within the underlying development, but also building out your content creation platform and reaching thousands and thousands of builders. So how has that experience been like, balancing building out your content creation prowess along with building everything that you're doing in schoolwork? How has that been, and what are you most interested in as far as the content realm goes?
Yeah, so I'll answer the question backwards.
Yep.
What I'm most interested in content is the way that you can reach people and the way that people can engage with you. So before I was doing content for a few years, I was getting like an average 1,000 to 2,000 views per video or reel, as they call it on Instagram. And what changed is, hey, how can I actually provide value to people and see what value they can provide back? And that changed. My videos became more centered around education. I started giving out tips and tricks videos, vlogging my hackathons, and that's when I shifted from 2K followers to 50,000 in 16 weeks.
That's crazy.
Yeah, thanks. And I think what helped me juggle that along with both building and being a student was knowing the way I could leverage.
Right.
Building alone and being a student alone are two pretty great things. But what if you could exponentially increase the return you get?
Yes.
And I knew that content creation was a way for me to get that leverage.
Awesome. And I mean, content creation just over the last, decade has sort of become one of the primary focuses of so many young people. It really is the way to reach the masses, in my opinion. And we're seeing that at really all levels of society at this point. What tips do you have for growing a platform? What are some of the main things that you think have driven your success?
Ooh. Okay, number one is authenticity. Authenticity for sure. It's okay to make jokes and don't really put up a false image. Like, acknowledging the wins is great, but also acknowledging the losses. Like, I'm pretty transparent on my platform. I've made a video where I've lost the Harvard hackathon. I made a video where I won that NEAR hackathon. But it's really like, despite social media being like a highlight reel of like your best things, there's also times where you can just be like, hey, there's moments where I haven't won and I've failed.
Absolutely.
And people connect with that too.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. In terms of when you go into a hackathon, what are you planning out? How are you strategizing what you want to build? What are some of the main factors that you're looking at before you start actually developing?
Oh, that's a good question. So I always go in with a very intentional plan for each hackathon. I prioritize 3 main features, and those 3 features have to have both uniqueness and they have to have impact.
Right.
And they have to have a high feasibility.
Yes.
So, for example, the mainnet thing. The reason we were able to get it on mainnet in the hackathon, in the NEAR hackathon, was because we were prioritizing simple features and being able to ship them flawlessly.
Yes. Flawlessly.
Yeah.
That is a word that I don't often assimilate with hackathons. And dialing into the NEAR hackathon that you won, what was the project there?
Oh, the project was, instead of sports betting, you know how there's a big audience for esports?
Yeah.
So it completely ties into Web3, like the way that everything is digitalized and the Web3 assets are digitalized. For esports, users can connect to the Twitch API, stream their favorite esports players, and also bet on their esports player to see if they win or lose, and then get rewarded with tokens.
That's cool. There's been a massive boom in the prediction markets after the election that kind of became a premier use case for blockchain. Are you interested in that at all? It's sort of aligned with like esports betting. I'm curious what your thoughts are about the impact that that's had, and if you're kind of interested in that domain at all.
Yeah, I was watching the keynote and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. I think there's a good audience for predictions. I haven't quite dwelled into it as much as a builder, but it did pique my interest, and I'm interested in exploring that.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of cool how markets seem to be like the ultimate source of truth, and when there's money involved, I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, both money and like interest. Like when you can see public interest, it's pretty.
Yep. And then for blockchain development, it's still a very nascent space, and there's a lot of challenges associated with building smart contract applications. What are some of the main things that maybe you see that need to improve as far as blockchain development? And are there any chains that you see a lot of ease with building versus maybe some others that have more challenges just inherently involved?
I think the blockchains that I've had more challenge working with was Stellar. I mean, that hackathon, I was a little bit sleep deprived, but I think there could have been more documentation on how to build the DApps. VChain was an easy blockchain to build DApps on. Yeah, they actually had a lot of example DApps, so we were really easily able to integrate AI with blockchain. And then NEAR was also relatively easy as well. So you guys have good documentation.
Yeah, and that's something I know for like chain abstraction has been a huge focus of NEAR Protocol, and we're interfacing with the NEAR Dev Hub a lot about how to improve that developer experience. And I think more cookbooks would be really helpful. More development examples. Would you agree with that? What are some of the things that we as the NEAR blockchain can improve on for builders?
Yeah, I think more example apps, but like really walking through what makes them work. And more of like giving an overview for the apps that's easier for beginners.
Right.
Because like I think I've seen people who have had more experience in blockchain be able to easily grasp, but I mean, it's all about breaking the barrier of entry to more developers. So I think brevity is great too, like just like noting down each of the features and what they do.
Right. And I think that content creators, having very technically experienced content creators that can go through a build, I mean, that is something that NEAR could really improve on too. So hopefully with more people like you, we're able to reach that point. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure we talk about before we wrap up with our discussion today?
Ooh. Perhaps AI.
AI, love it. Awesome. That's an area that for our hackathon build, we developed like a GraphReg as a service pipeline. So you can take any corpus of data and it optimizes it, filters the data. We did blockchain transactions and account details, but ultimately it ends up on a Neo4j knowledge graph.
Oh,
and then we built a query engine that lets you talk to it. So that was like our hackathon build, and we like really focused on AI there. But for you, what are you most excited about in the AI space, and maybe how that can best interface with crypto?
I'm most excited about AI and crypto and their intersection.
Yeah.
Specifically in the way that typical consumers can use it.
Right.
I think AI creates a lot of hype and blockchain creates a lot of hype. But as we grow towards more and more of making blockchain mainstream, the way that we've seen AI become mainstream, we can perhaps generate more of that hype around it and some really cool projects like that. Like for example, in a hackathon, I use VChain to first use OpenAI API AI to let a user upload a food bank receipt and scan through to see if the user donated food and how much, and then it would reward the user for donating with VChain. Yeah,
that's awesome. And I like to strawman the crypto AI experience a lot. I want to really nail down on the value, and for me, I think there's a few things that really stand out, but the most like basic principle is just being able to transact any sum of value between two non-people, having agents that can send $1 or $1 billion back and forth without all of the KYC requirements that are required in Web 2. That to me seems very straightforward and valuable for autonomous agents. Then there's the infrastructure side, and you can have the decentralized compute, and I haven't been as impressed with that just because of the scale of decentralized compute versus the centralized counterparties. But it's still really valid. But what do you think about that? What are maybe some of your interests, but also maybe some things that you're like, I'm not too sure about that?
Yeah, I saw that demo of all the multi-agent system, like being able to execute those transactions. And my biggest takeaway is that this really aligns with like how hackathons can reflect on the larger world. Like hackathon projects, I think judges really love ease of use. And if you can bring that ease of use and scale it, I think that's where most of the growth will happen.
Right. And something, I mean, that's really important to note, I think, for participating in over 30 hackathons, that's 30 individual projects that you're bringing to life. And I think it really showcases just how fast we're able to iterate, prototype, and bring something to market with, pretty small teams. And you can contrast that just a couple years ago. You could have an entire development team that could take a pretty long time to build out the same things that a lot of us are able, to at least prototype pretty fast. And how do you think that that's going to impact maybe like the funding models and the way that people pursue fundraising? Do you see some of those dynamics likely to change just with how fast and how many resources are available to bring products to life at maybe less cost than before?
Yeah, I've been seeing that at ECA hackathons. Have you guys heard of ECA?
I have not, no.
Okay, they're this mobile app that basically teaches users crypto, and also they host a bunch of hackathons. What they've been doing is they've been partnering with blockchains, where if students build on a certain blockchain and their project does well, they can get connected with fundraising. So hackathons sort of fast track hackathon participants or
Right.
hackathon competitors into fundraising.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a good source of a good tangible source of like talents.
Yeah.
And that could contribute to better demos and quicker fundraising.
Yeah, and I almost see a world where a lot of the times fundraising might not even be required, at least until a much more advanced stage when you really are ready to scale resources. And that probably is a little bit different than before, which I think is going to create a new dynamic for founders, but founders that can sit down and build, bring stuff to market, create content around what they're doing. Very good recipe for some incredible things. And it sounds like that's exactly the way that you've been kind of following your trajectory out of college into the world of building for a living.
Yeah, crossing my fingers and hoping for the best for the next steps. Yeah.
And for the audience, I do think that there's going to be a lot of people who are really interested in your journey from the content side, from the developer side, bringing those two worlds together. If you just have a few key suggestions for that audience, how they could best try to do what you're doing, what sort of tips would you give them?
I have one tip, and that is just to go forward without fear.
Love it.
I started hackathons as a business major, meaning that I had no limiting beliefs. So I just went head first and put myself in the environment. You don't even have to start building a project. You have to first find your people, find your community, and just honestly go for it.
Love it. That's incredible advice. Audrey, thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been a
thank you.
great talk.
Yeah.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your hackathon.
You too.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yes. Cool.